Tonight, we honor legacy, partnerships, and an incredible individual that has built and supported communities, Major General retired Peter J. Gravitt. Our program today is in memory of a Battleship founding board member and veteran Brian Moss, who passed away in 2017. He was unable to attend the celebration last year due to illness, but faithfully attended each year as a tribute to his mentor on the Iowa, a young Lieutenant Samuel L. Gravely. Brian used to like to tell the story that you are admonished in the service to never volunteer for anything, but he was happy to volunteer when Gravely asked. Under Gravely's mentorship, he went from scrubbing the decks of the ship to ship communications, which prepared him for his professional career in electronics. Please join me in welcoming our next speaker, Battleship Iowa Museum trustee and Gravely Experience co-host, Tanya Acker. Tanya Acker is a judge on the hit CBS show Hot Bench, created by Judge Judy, and a native and a superfan of Los Angeles. Ladies and gentlemen, Tanya Acker.
I have a real treat for you tonight because I won't be up here talking. I'm going to turn the stage over to somebody who a lot of you already know. He is, in many words, dynamic and engaging. He has brought and continues to bring life to the Southern California community, and he is a champion for vets. He remains a champion for vets. He remains a champion for the servicemen and women of America. He is Bobby McDonald. Yeah, because you guys already all know Bobby. Bobby's a superstar. For the two people in the audience who maybe don't already know Bobby, I'll tell you a little bit about him. He is a U.S. Navy Vietnam veteran. He's a member of the 9th and 10th Horse Cavalry Association Buffalo Soldiers. He's a member of the State Board of Governors of the California Community College System, where, by the way, he created and chaired the board's Veterans Affairs Committee. Bobby is the president and the chief executive of the Black Chamber of Commerce of Orange County, Cha-ching. He's also a founder of the Orange County's President's Council and a founding member of the Orange County Sports Hall of Fame. He's a director of Heroes Hall, and he was newly appointed by the Secretary of the Department of Veterans Affairs to the Advisory Council on Minority Veterans. You all know him. We all know him. We all love him. He is going to guide us through a lovely, wonderful, and rewarding and fun evening. Mr. Bobby McDonald.
Tanya and I met April of last year, 2017. We both met because we, through the Black Chamber Education Fund, we partner and have helped the Council of African American Parents. And that's a group that for 25 years have helped students get into major colleges across this country, from Harvard to, well, maybe LA Harbor College, but no, Harbor, and, well, I went to LA Harbor, so, Harvard and to Cal State Fullerton and UC Riverside and UC Irvine, Berkeley, you name it. And this group was putting on their 25th anniversary, and they asked me to MC with this lady that I had never met called Tanya Acker. So we got it going, and then there was a little break, and so I was over in the corner, and we were talking, and she kind of, I guess, liked something I said, because she said, you know, you ought to come out to our Black History Month program for Admiral Gravely. I said, you mean Admiral Samuel E. Gravely, the first black admiral in the United States Navy, got appointed by Richard Nixon in August of 1971, went to Virginia Union, and he was a man of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated? That Gravely? And she said, yeah, you're going to be our next MC. So that's why I'm here, for all those good reasons. Yeah. But anyway, my job is to make sure that we don't get frozen tonight and that I keep moving the agenda. So with that, I'd like to have Rear Admiral Shitnitsky please come up and start with the program, sir.
Well, good evening. I'm the vice chairman of the board here on the Battleship Iowa and a retired Navy Rear Admiral, as you heard. And on behalf of the crew and the board of Iowa, thank you for coming on board for a great evening like this. I spent 37 years in uniform. I served on board a battleship, the sister ship to this, the USS New Jersey, as the main engine officer, and I've seen tremendous amount of change in the 37 years I've served. I was in the last all-male class at the Naval Academy, and I've seen I saw the first women come into the Naval Academy, move on board ships. When I came on into the Navy at the Naval Academy, women had to sign a piece of paper that said they would never fly, they would never serve on ships, they would never serve on submarines. And I've seen tremendous change since that time. I look at our fleet, and it's the face of our nation. I'm incredibly proud that I have a niece in grade school right now, and she doesn't know a world where she can't be whatever she wants to be, including an F-18 Super Hornet fighter pilot or a Navy SEAL or anything else in this U.S. Navy. Vice Admiral Gravely is called the man of many firsts, and as a black man, he was the first commanding officer of a combatant warship on our Navy. He was the first to make the rank of captain, the first to make the rank of admiral. He was commander of a cruiser-destroyer group, and then after that, the commander of our third fleet, and that's the same fleet that Admiral Nimitz commanded during World War II. He's appropriately honored here today and throughout our Navy and our country as a trailblazer during Black History Month. So Vice Admiral Gravely, as you heard, is a battleship sailor like me. And he served on board this ship, the USS Iowa, during the Korean War as a communications officer. And I think it's a testament to him and his capabilities as a naval officer that his final command tour as a 3-star admiral was in command of the Defense Communications Agency, where he wasn't the commanding officer of a communications suite on a ship, single ship like this. He commanded all communications for all branches of the service, all services in our great country. He paved the way for incredible things that have happened since then. I told you I was the last all-male class at the Naval Academy. A woman who came shortly in one of the subsequent classes to me, Michelle Howard, a friend of mine, just retired as a 4-star admiral this December, where she was the vice CNO when she retired. That's the number 2 admiral in our U.S. Navy, and that's the Navy he forged for us today. In 2010, the USS Gravely was commissioned, which any seagoing warrior will tell you is the highest honor our Navy will give to anyone. On a quick side note, we have a lot of traditions in our Navy. One example is when an admiral comes on board a ship or a senior officer comes on board a ship, you have something called side boys there, which you get an appropriate number of side boys per your rank. If you're a captain, you get 4 side boys that will salute as you're piped on board. As admiral, you get 6. Traditions are interesting because the reason an admiral would get 6 is because usually they were more senior, they had put more weight. In the old days of wooden sailing ships, it took 6 sailors to haul that admiral by rope up the side of the ship, and it only took 4 to haul up a captain. So, but we keep these traditions around. But the traditions do have a lot of meaning to us, a tremendous amount of meaning to us. And if you came on board, and I think you can maybe still see it now, there are 2 flags flying on the halyards of this battleship. One is my 2-star flag, which a Navy ship will fly whenever a senior officer comes on board, a 1-star flag, a 2-star flag, and appropriate for those ranks. But today we're flying a 2-star Army flag for Major General Gravitt. And I think that's a rather unique thing, but it's from a sea warrior to a land warrior, we honor you in our Navy way. So Admiral Gravely had a formula for success. It was education plus motivation plus perseverance. And since he was the communications officer on board the ship, we have entitled the award to honor what he stood for, what his legacy is, the Bravo Zulu Award. Bravo is the phonetic way we pronounce B in the Navy. Zulu is the way we pronounced Z in the Navy, and that's so they won't be mixed up in communications. So whether we talk by radio or by signal flags, there's flags that are Bravo and flags that are Zulu, or Morse code, dits and das. Bravo Zulu isn't just letters, which it is, but it also, in combination, means you've done a good job. So an admiral, a general, a captain of a ship will say to the crew, Bravo Zulu, good job. And it's understood that means good job. Rather than say more about the meaning of that word and how Admiral Gravely might explain it, I'm going to call up to the stage Stephanie Castaneda. And Barbara, would you like to come up too? And Stephanie's going to read her essay for us. Oh, there you are. She's going to read her essay for us. She's the winner of our Bravo Zulu Award.
Okay, hi. Hi, my name is Stephanie Castaneda, and I attend Harbor Teacher Preparation Academy in Wilmington. I am a Chicana with an interest in arts and education. Choosing to participate in this essay contest was a simple decision. The first mention of the contest and Gravely were by my AP US history teacher, Mr. Grovin. A brief explanation of the life of Admiral Gravely and his impact as the first black official on a fighting ship were the only incentives I needed to research as much as I could about him. The invisible legacy minorities like him have given to this country fascinates me, and I am always seeking to educate myself on the people who shaped this country. Gravely displayed motivation, education, and perseverance throughout his life as a military officer, African American, and student. Motivation was the foundation of Gravely's success. He told Ebony magazine his urge for government service was just that empowering. His motivation allowed Admiral Gravely to persevere by remaining on military duty despite racist encounters, from petty measures like an officer warning personnel of his arrival on the USS Iowa, to blatant snuffs like being denied entry into the Officers Club in Florida. Gravely rose above discrimination to gain reverence through his awards, including the Legion of Merit with Gold Star. In his regular life, Admiral Gravely displayed perseverance by seeking an education after being deployed, earning a bachelor's at Virginia Union University. If I were ever to meet Admiral Gravely in person, I would ask how he maintained a level head despite the racism he faced. I would also ask how he maintained the relentless focus needed to achieve what he did. Both are things I would like to apply to my own life. A person in my life with trait like Admiral Gravely's is my father. He is the most selfless person I know. The traits Admiral Gravely applied mesh in my father. A motive of education caused him to persevere. My dad applied this mentality outwardly. His goals in life are to see his children succeed, as he could not. Growing up in a barren Mexican town as an intelligent child was isolating for him. He saw a higher education as unattainable. Thus, he sought to provide his children with more opportunities. After immigrating to America, my father kept his motivation central to our family dynamic. Education is encouraged as a means to escape a life of survival and to explore our deepest thoughts. As children, he would hold a preschool for my sisters and I, teaching us about administration and government through a kingdom game. I will never forget when Queen Barbie had to deal with her own fairy immigrants. My dad perseveres still, taking odd jobs on weekends and working until dusk to provide money to attain resources, and never neglecting to sit down with us every day to discuss our progress through life. My father's own perseverance, education, and motivation profoundly impacted how I go about my own life. Everything I achieve belongs in his legacy.
About 3 years ago, we were trying to figure out how to get students involved because it was our big fear that students had lost the legacy of America, and many did not even know that the USS Iowa was here in the Bay. So the host committee, of which I have been a member for 3 years, decided to do the student essay. So this is our third year doing our student essay, and as you see here, we have mostly females here. That's a good thing. But we do have a young man who's playing basketball tonight. He couldn't make it. So there's two different awards here. There's the Bravo Zulu Award, which is an academic award for the academic writing. There's the Spirit Award for the young people who had the spirit of the idea of Admiral Gravely. The Spirit Award winners did not know they were going to get any scholarship money. So thanks to a great donor, Mr. Walsh and his company, we were able also to give a scholarship to them. So you want to give them a round of applause, please.
Listen, we have a really big treat up next. He's a great friend of mine. He's a great human. He's a great American. He's a great philanthropist. A lot of you know him as Judge Judy's great bailiff, which he is. Bird is all of those things you see on TV. That is real. He was actually Judy's bailiff before she was on TV. So they were a duo before they became TV's dynamic duo.
In the Admiral's own words. Well, my father was a hard worker, and I'm sure he got to that place in life that he got to through hard work, because he didn't have very much education. He had only about a third grade education. But he got to be a post office worker as a mail handler, and that was strictly laboring, carrying sacks of mail from one place to another, dumping them down so someone else could work the mail. He taught me that whenever you see a guy's workstation that doesn't have a bag there, put one there so he could keep going, you know, because otherwise he'll quit on you. Things like that. I remember one thing, I was coming from a place we used to call Down Corner. I passed a drugstore there, and the druggist called to me and said, "Son, would you like to make a dime?" I said, "Yes, sir." So he said, "Well, would you mind sweeping my walk?" I swept his walk, and he gave me the dime. When I got home, I told my dad about this, and he said, "Son, I just got off a streetcar at that corner, and that place doesn't look like it's been swept to me. You give me that dime, and we're going to walk back around there, and we'll see Mr. Harrison and see if he'll let us do it again so I can show you how." And boy, he swept that sidewalk out to the middle of the street where the streetcar came up the track, right to the gutter, curb, and everything else. I guess it took about an hour. And when I thought about, I thought I had done it in 15 minutes and had done it right. He knew how to work much harder than I did, and he did it. I never forgot it. And not only that, the next time that I saw Mr. Harrison, he said, "How would you like to come back here and work every Friday and Saturday night?" "Yes, sir," I said. So he gave me a job. And so it goes, one step at a time. For the next portion of our program, a tribute to Admiral Gravely and Major General Gravitt, I'd like to welcome a very special group of people to the stage. Douglas Berry is a graduate of L.A. Harbor College and Long Beach State University. And as a 35-year member of the Los Angeles Fire Department, he is a true first responder in every sense. He retired in 2009 as the first African-American fire chief of the department, and currently serves as a docent of the African-American Firefighters Museum. Please join me in welcoming Douglas Berry. Emmanuel Girard obtained a degree in theater arts at the University of Lyon in France and went on to perform in various shows around the world. She has performed in productions such as Beauty and the Beast, Les Miserables, The Little Mermaid, The King and I, Snow White, Jack and the Beanstalk, Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, just to name a few. Please join me in welcoming Emmanuel Girard. Haskell Jackson is a 6-time Grammy nominee and the founder and CEO of Haskell Jackson Entertainment, Genesol Productions, and PAI Stations. Haskell ran the Kanye West Foundation for over 6 years. And now as CEO founder of PAI Stations, he oversees a curriculum-based youth initiative designed to equip students with the knowledge and experience necessary to work in the music industry. Please join me in welcoming Haskell Jackson. Monica McNeil is an Associated Press award-winning meteorologist who has worked for CNN, the Weather Channel, and in various television markets around the country. The NAACP recognized her as the first African-American woman meteorologist in Ohio, and she is a member of the National Weather Service and the National Association of Black Journalists. Monica also volunteers with and mentors students with special needs. Please join me in welcoming her to the stage. And finally, but certainly not least, please join me in extending a warm welcome to the students of Harbor Teacher Preparation Academy. Stephanie Castaneda, Lena Deng, Jada Jameson, Jasmine Mendoza, and Ann Tsai.
Samuel Gravely answered the call of service in September 1942. He completed midshipman training in 1944, becoming the first African American commissioned as an officer from the Navy Reserve Officer Training Corps.
Side note, but not just an aside. As a newly commissioned ensign, Gravely's first assignment was to Camp Robert Smalls, named after Robert Smalls, an enslaved African American who stole a Confederate battleship, picked up his wife and child and the families of other crewmen on the way.
Sailed past 5 Confederate harbor forts without incident, since he knew the Confederate signals, then sailed past Fort Sumter.
Before delivering the ship and the valuable Confederate battle plans it contained to the Union Army.
After the Civil War, Robert Smalls returned to South Carolina, purchased his former master's home, and represented South Carolina's 5th and 7th congressional districts in the House of Representatives.
And back to Samuel Gravely. He was the first African American to command a warship.
The USS Theodore E. Chandler.
He was the first African American to command a major warship.
The USS Jouett.
He was the first to achieve flag rank and become vice admiral, and the first to command a numbered fleet.
The U.S. Third Fleet.
And don't forget that he served as a radio specialist right here, aboard the USS Iowa.
As Admiral Gravely put it,
no matter how you tell the story of racial tension, segregation, and discrimination, a bunch of people will disagree with you. Ultimately, I learned that, hell, it's not my job to please everyone. I realized that I had acquired a reputation that reached beyond the ship. This was an opportunity to influence all sorts of people indirectly. When you think about those times, the 1960s, we were trying to fight battles to win a degree of freedom for a group of people who had experienced a lot of discrimination. The words finally dawned on me: role model. I felt proud I could be a role model and that people wanted to emulate me.
Admiral Gravely received the Legion of Merit, Bronze Star, Meritorious Service, and Navy Commendation Medals. In 2010, the destroyer USS Gravely was named in his honor.
The son of an enlisted soldier in a Tuskegee Airmen's unit, Major General Peter Gravitt is one of 12 children, 8 of whom served in the military. He served his country in the military for more than 40 years in the Army and the California National Guard. Before retiring from the Guard, Major General Gravitt served as a commanding general of the 40th Infantry Division. He became the first African-American National Guard Division commander in the history of the Guard. Later serving as the Secretary of the California Department of Veterans Affairs, where he created the position of Deputy Secretary for Women Veterans Affairs.
In Admiral Gravely's words,
let me speak briefly on some of the fundamental virtues. Just getting over a cold. Let me speak briefly on some of the fundamental virtues you must achieve as a preparatory step towards the achievement of a successful life. This, in substance, is my advice to you on how to achieve whatever measure of success you personally desire. You work for it.
Major General Gravitt served as a commissioned officer in numerous countries, including Central Europe, Western Europe, Asia, Central America. While in command of the Guard, Major General Gravitt served a dual assignment in Kiev, Ukraine, with the Partnership for Peace program.
As Admiral Gravely said,
you must establish a code of discipline that will motivate you to learn and to work within the framework of existing institutions, and that will give you the power and the means to help rebuild that framework if you find it needs rebuilding. Personal discipline will enable you to contribute what you can to the betterment of the world around you.
Now, at the same time he served with the National Guard, Major General Gravitt served simultaneously for 22 years with the Los Angeles Police Department. He was awarded the department's highest award, the Medal of Valor.
In the words of Admiral Gravely,
This brings me to another fine word, leadership, with great stress on the need to develop it. Some must lead, and some must follow. And the path of the follower is the easier path. But if you feel somewhat within yourself a flowering of the talent to lead, constructively, in any field, nurture it. Do whatever you can to make this talent grow. We are learning to perceive and understand that our times are changing also, that we can no longer wrap ourselves in the comfortable memories of life in a simpler age, vainly hoping that traditional solutions will work against modern problems. We must always be ready to make some changes in traditional thinking ourselves. We need men and women with vision, imagination, and most of all, an understanding of what is going on in the world around them.
In the words of Major General Gravitt,
For a long time, 40 or 50 years, our country went without servicing veterans, but we do now. Now we honor and recognize the service of our veterans because we know that veterans are patriotic. They are loyal and they are our future in terms of this country. Veterans shape this country and will shape it in the future.
When Tanya and I spoke the other night, and she says, I would like for you to introduce Major General Peter Gravitt. And I said, okay. And so we talked about his bio. And I said, well, you know, the kids are going to do a pretty good job of saying what he's done. And a few other people are going to say a few things what he's going to done. And I said, how about if I just go ahead and give a few items that you won't find in Google about Major General Peter Gravitt. So what I'm going to do is let you know that, did you know that he served in 10 countries over the world during his tour? Now, you heard about a couple already with Ukraine and a few other places, but over 10 countries. I got a chance to meet Major General Peter Gravitt in 2002 when he was in charge of the National Guard Division down there in Orange County at Los Alamitos. And I got a chance to meet him because the first ever Buffalo Soldier National Convention in Orange County was held in 2002. It's kind of like at the end of his tenure. And he was a very, very prominent person at that time. So that's how we got together in regards to being involved with the Buffalo Soldiers. But when I was on the California Community College Board of Governors, and he was he was the Secretary of Veterans Affairs, I again tried to work through and make sure that there was a Veterans Advisory Committee on the Board of Governors. Of course, we have 113 community colleges in the state of California, and we wanted to make sure that veterans had an opportunity. So I went and I got a chance to go into office and say, you know, I'm looking at doing something special here for veterans. And so he took the lead and helped me get that position with the Veterans Summit. We took the lead. He helped me make sure that we had a California Veterans Summit for all veterans and those counselors and those people that work in the state of California. And now we're on our 7th year. So he helped start that. He was part of the National Association of Director of Veterans Affairs. He helped host a convention in San Diego. He was also involved with the Irvine Valley College Veterans Resource Center when it got opened. And that was something that Wells Fargo had donated money to and got him involved. He created the Deputy Secretary for Women's Veterans for the state of California. He created that position. And then, needless to say, he called me again, and he says, I noticed, Bobby, that black veterans were not taking advantage of their benefits. And he said, we've done an Asian American, we've done a Latino, we've done a Women's Veteran Summit. let's do a Black Veterans Summit. So the first ever Black Veterans Summit for Black veterans in the state of California was done during Black History Month at the African American Museum. And that was put on by General Gravitt. Now, everyone was open to all these others, but the fact that he was there and his big thought was to make sure that veterans, especially African American and Black veterans, would get their benefits and take care of their benefits and take advantage of it. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like for you to put your hands together and help me welcome a true American patriot, a dedicated leader, and the 2018 Admiral C. Gravely Celebration Experience Award, Major General Peter Gravitt.
Well, thank you, Bobby Mack, my good friend. You can see me, I can't see you because the lights are in my eyes. But I can tell you that the only thing standing between you and the warm heater in your automobile is me. So my remarks won't be that long, but I do have a few remarks I want to make. First, I have a lot of thanks to give for this evening. This evening did not just happen, it evolved. I want to start by thanking God for His grace. I want to thank the Battleship Iowa volunteers and docents for their work here on the battleship. I want to thank the Pacific Battleship Center staff and leaders for all their work they do on this battleship. I want to thank my family. And let me talk about that for a minute, because without family, you don't have the support mechanisms you need. Let me first introduce my wife, Colonel Blanche Gravitt. Blanche, please stand. My son, Mark, please stand. And my daughter-in-law, Rosalina. But my family is really over here, the other part of my family. It was mentioned that we had 12 children at one time in my family. 8 served in the military. Many are here tonight, along with their spouses. I'd like to have all of my family members, brothers, sisters, relatives, cousins, all please stand. Thank you, thank you. I've had a long career in the military, and my family has been with me every step of the way. They've traveled throughout California with me in some cases. They've attended all the ceremonies, promotion ceremonies, changes of command ceremonies. They have attended different things with the military. My son Mark, when he was younger, spent time with me in the field, in a cold field, very cold, in a tent, and decided right then that he didn't want any part of the Army. But he liked driving the Jeep. Again, this evening didn't just happen, it evolved. And I want to thank 2 people that I met a few months ago that made this evening a possibility for me. You've met them earlier, and that is Jane Johnson. Jane, where are you? I want to give a round of applause to Jane again. And Tanya Acker, who is it? There she is. And Tanya. They called me, and we had lunch, and we discussed this evening might be a possibility. By the way, Tanya just returned from Haiti, where she does volunteer work down there. So let's give Tanya another round of applause for her work there. I talked to Bobby McDonald a while back, and I said, you know, Bobby, when you introduce me, just say, here's Peter, and that's all you need. Bobby was short-winded tonight. He normally gets wound up and going like a Baptist minister. But he did okay tonight. I had some notes that I prepared for tonight, thinking that I would have a lot of light on the podium and I have a notebook and so on and so forth. So I don't have that. So let me just speak from my heart a little bit here and tell you about me as a person. I didn't just wake up one day and became a general. As you probably know, it was a process. And I never intended to be a general. I can tell you that when I first joined the Army, I had a goal. As many of you have goals in life and in military or business or industry, commerce. My goal in the military was to be a corporal. And I thought that was a lofty rank to have, those 2 stripes on a uniform. And I worked hard to become a corporal, and I made corporal. But then I realized that once I made corporal, that was not enough. I thought I needed a little bit more, and I worked a little harder and got a few promotions. It was mentioned earlier that I had a dual career, both in law enforcement and the military. But that's not unique because in this country, our militia, which is the National Guard, is designed by our Constitution. And the Constitution says that we will not have a large standing army. We would have a militia, which is called the National Guard. And in times of conflict and time of war, we bring the militia to supplement the army, and they'd go and do business. And so that's what I did. I was in the police department for a number of years, and I traveled a lot. And when I retired from the police department, of course, I returned to full-time military duty for over 20 years and enjoyed every minute of it. Some people say, what did you like about the military? There's a lot to like about the military, a lot. And it's not just the people. And it's not just the service that you give to your country and community. It's the fact that you are giving of yourself to something greater than yourself. And I got to tell you that I like to believe that I gave something to the military, but then I got something in return. What I got was the fulfillment, knowing full well that I had friends across the country, friends in foreign countries, who I've visited since retirement a few times. And I know full well, after leaving the military and watching the young people come behind me, that this country is in great hands with our young military. I have mentors. I've had mentors along the way, people that I looked up to in the military. For example, Admiral Gravely, of course, Navy. And I have a connection with Admiral Gravely. Matter of fact, I have 2 or 3 connections with him. I belong to an organization called Mission Readiness. Mission Readiness is an organization made up of retired African American generals and admirals. We meet once a year in Washington, D.C. for a forum and a dinner where we exchange information and we discuss how we, as retired senior leaders, can impact national security, but in a different way. We impact national security with making sure the young people who want to join the military can join the military. I don't want to get off on that, but let me just say that right now about 65% of young men and women in America between the ages of 18 and 25, 65% are ineligible to join the military. Ineligible for a number of reasons, but primarily because of obesity. And our mantra in Mission Readiness is to ensure that childhood obesity is abated. We spend a lot of time going from state to state, talking to legislature to legislature. We testify before Congress to ensure that school districts throughout the country have good nutrition programs. So several years ago, at one of our dinners, I met Admiral Gravely. I had just become a general, and he was He had just retired. But I have another connection with him, and I just met him just briefly that evening. Another connection with Admiral Gravely. I sailed aboard this battleship when it came into the harbor in its last leg from Northern California. It was in the outer harbor. Blanche and I boarded the battleship along with some other people, and we sailed right down this channel on this battleship, all the way down the channel, under the bridge, into Wilmington, into the turning basin in Wilmington, made the turn, came back, and stopped at this pier, Pier 90. And I thought that was kind of unique because I know this pier. For those of you that know the Gravitt family, you will know that we grew up just 2 blocks across the street in the public housing project. And this pier here, every year, had ships from foreign countries would come here and do an open house on the ship. And we would come here and spend time on the ships at Pier 90. So the fact that this battleship, which Admiral Gravely served on, is at Pier 90, the same pier that we spent time on as young boys, aged 8 or 9, 10, 12 years old, that's another connection I have with Admiral Gravely. But he was a mentor in absentia with me. The other people I looked upon, whose shoulders I stood on, was the first African-American general in the Army, B.O. Davis, General Davis. The first 4-star general in the Air Force, Chappie James. The first black general in the Marine Corps, General Peterson. The first ABC in the Coast Guard, ABC able-bodied seaman, Alex Haley. You probably know Alex Haley from the book he wrote, Roots, in the TV series. He was the first black able-bodied seaman in the Coast Guard. Other than that, he'd been a messman. So I have a lot of people that I used as my mentors in growing up and looked at what they had done. I'm so proud of my family, my wife, my son. I'm proud to be here tonight, and I've got to look back at the very first time and the only time in my life that I recall seeing my father in a military uniform. And I was about 4 years old. I recall him walking into the house in a uniform, and I don't know what happened after that, but I was a very young boy. Maybe that gave me the impetus to join the military. My father, our father, was drafted into the Army Air Corps in World War II. At the time he was drafted, he had 8 children. Think about that. He had 8 children when he was drafted. And of course, later on, after the war was over, when he was released from the military, he and my mother had 4 more children, so there were 12 of us altogether. Our father was the hardest working person that I've ever met, ever known. Working 2 full-time jobs for over 30 years and never taking a vacation to support his family. That passed down to his sons and daughters to be self-sufficient and to be in charge of their families and take charge of their families. My brothers and sisters are also my heroes. And I don't know that I've ever thanked them publicly, and this may be the last opportunity I have to do that, but I want to just thank all of you for all that you've done to help support me in my military, and also the spouses of my siblings. And then I want to single out one brother before I conclude here. Melvin, would you stand over there? Duke, would you stand up? My brother Melvin, we call him Duke, is retired Command Sergeant Major from the military, the highest enlisted rank. I'd like to always say that he's a senior military person in the family because he received his Sergeant Major star before I received my first star as a general. So, and he never lets me forget that. So I want to thank you, Dick. And I can call each brother and sister up and say something about them, but in interest of time, I won't do that because, like I said, those heaters in your car are waiting for you to go out there. But and just also, I want to thank my friends that came tonight. I have some friends here from the British United Services Club. The British United Services Club is a club made up of Commonwealth countries of the British Empire and the U.S. military who meet once a month and share social experiences. So would the members of BUSC please stand and their spouses? Thank you very much. And then we have, is Colonel Winger and Colonel Spann here? I can't see out there. Yes, sir. Over here, sir. Okay, Colonel Winger and Colonel Spann, please stand. Let me say something about these two colonels. And also McNamara. Is McNamara over there also? Colonel McNamara, okay. All three of them served in my command. And these gentlemen are really patriotic and heroes. They served in Afghanistan and served in Iraq and distinguished themselves. And I'll just tell you, just a few months ago, I had the honor of pinning a Bronze Star medal with V device on Colonel Spann. Raise your hand, Colonel Spann. And the V device stands for valor. He distinguished himself in combat in Afghanistan and did some great things over there, saving lives. So thank you very much, gentlemen. Appreciate that. Of the 18,000 soldiers that I commanded in the division, these stood out, and I really appreciate them being here tonight. I'm rambling now, and I don't want to do that, so I just want to say I want to thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you for your support. Thank you for supporting the country. Thank you for being an American. And thank you for supporting the Battleship Iowa. And hats off to the crew here at Battleship Iowa. And also, before I go, Admiral Shatinsky. Where's the Admiral? I want to thank the Admiral for hosting my flag on his mast. Probably the only time the Army flag has been on a Navy mast, and I appreciate that very much. Thank you very much.
That's your award. Okay, get over here in the middle. There you go. Time to get on this side. There you go. Okay.